Howdy, and welcome to the Choose a Happy Day show, a podcast for women who want to up-level their life, manifest those dreams, and just live happier. If you have vision boards, love energy work, are into psychics, and feel you are meant for something more in this life, then this show is for you. Hi, I'm Lorraine Toth, an award-winning filmmaker, author, Reiki master, photographer, and creative genius who also loves to vision board. And I am here to bring you all of the tips and tricks to help you up-level your life. Now let's go and hop on that happy train. So, welcome to the Choose a Happy Day show. Today, I have a very special guest. Her name is Kelly Ballard, and she is here to talk about all things spiritual, organization, life, happiness, love, all
everything
that.
in between.
Oh,
Yes,
yeah,
absolutely.
my favorite topics.
Thank you for having me, Lorraine. I really appreciate it.
Oh my gosh, I know. I've been wanting to meet you. We have a mutual friend, Nick Carpito, and he just raves about you. So, and then I, of course, started stalking you on Instagram, and I'm like, your weekly tips, like, they just help me get into the mindset of like, I should check in with myself.
Oh, that makes my heart very happy. It's funny because though my energetic tune-ins with spirit, I've been doing those for the last couple of years privately, actually. And it's something that I found as like a medium and a healer. And whether I'm working with clients one-on-one or going into like a heavy week of teaching, it was giving me a little bit of this added edge of what's coming in energetically for the week. Like, you know, might be some common themes or threads with my clients, maybe what are some things going on with my students. And so it was almost like spirit just putting some stuff on my radar. So that way I could kind of say, all right, this is the best way that I can serve and be supportive.
Yes.
And I was talking with a group of retreat attendees in Sedona this past January. I hosted my first retreat there. And I was telling them about this practice that I do. And they were like, you should do this on Instagram and on Facebook. And I was like, do you really think people are going to want to hear about that? They were like, yes. So it was kind of born after Sedona. And I've been doing it every Monday since. So it's been fun and I love it. And it's emotional to see how it's touching other people. And that I always say, you know, if there's one piece of it that you jive with, fabulous. If you get the whole thing, fabulous. Like whatever you need, take from it.
Right.
And it's great. It's been wonderful.
And it might change, right?
Yeah.
For every week,
definitely.
People might change.
Always shifts every week. There's some little nuggets, like patterns that carry over from week to week, and we talk about those. But there's always some new nuggets, some new insight from spirit.
And spirit tells you what to talk about.
Yeah, it's all channeled. Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So as I was watching that, my first question was like, how can people who don't have your gift of being a psychic, how can they tune in to like spirit?
So I consider myself a medium, actually.
A medium. Okay. So I'm here.
Yep. So as a medium, I communicate with dead people. And so whether that is my loved ones, your loved ones, my guides, source energy, the universe, I kind of mush everybody all together. And that's kind of my pocket that I dip into. So not everybody is going to access that mediumship hat. And I believe everyone has that ability to be able to do that. But there is a lot of grooming and nurturing and like love that you have to put into that to open up those channels. And so a lot of things that I try to nudge my clients and my students are like paying attention to how you feel, synchronicities, and just asking yourself questions. And a lot of times asking ourselves questions, and even if it's one thing, if you can listen to that knee-jerk answer that comes from you, that's like your higher self speaking to you. That's like you tapping into your people, like somebody's whispering in your ear something. And if you can just be authentic and honest with that answer, and it's not even that you got to share it with other people. It's just, you know, truly saying to yourself, you know, one of the questions that I asked last week was, what are you nurturing for the rest of July and August, right? So you could very easily give some like woo-woo answer that like is, I should say this. But if you really took time and over the course of a couple days kept asking, what does this mean to myself? You're going to get a nugget from your higher self. You're going to get a nugget from spirit. You're going to get something that is supported by this greater energy that's definitely working with every single person.
Okay, so anyone can tap into that.
Absolutely.
So I always like to give like key takeaway like tips. So if they're at home and they're like,
their question is, should I quit my job?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So if they keep asking themselves that and then tune in and like the same answer keeps coming up
Well,
will
so
that help?
yes and no.
Okay.
So I think there's a couple things. Sometimes it's having to remove some of our emotion around it. So if it's something that's getting us really ego-based and fired up, then we have to take a break from asking ourselves that question. And we have to give ourselves a little bit of a pause, because what you're going to be paying attention to and ultimately answering is from ego, which is the human part of you. Because I always like to say we are these amazing spiritual beings stuck in this fabulous physical body, because our bodies need to support us too. But it's most of the time that physical body, the ego, gets in a way of that spiritual being and your higher self. So when you have something that's like a hot button topic, I'll always say to somebody, like, why don't you give yourself just a break for a minute, you know? Yeah. And figure out what is the trigger that's getting you so antsy. Because if we can acknowledge that and remove it, then you've made space to ask yourself really the question, should I leave my job? Okay. And then I try to neutralize a question. So you think of quit. That's a really passionate word for people. And it can be a trigger word. So should I pursue a new job opportunity? So I try to always pivot and flip my questions around too. So when clients will come in for a reading, for example, and they might say, Kelly, I'm fed up with my job, and I'm, very, very upset. And listen, we have lots of rights to feel that way too. One of the things that I'll always try to say is, like, let's reframe this just for a moment so we can take some of the adrenaline down. So I'm not just getting your adrenaline, but we're getting what divinely is meant for you in this moment. And, most of the time we can do that pretty easily. So,
All right. Absolutely. So if someone has that question, they can't access it.
Give it a day or two.
And then if not, they can talk to you. And
oh my gosh, of course.
Channel all of your spirit guides. And their spirit guides.
You,
too,
and grandma and everybody in between. Maybe that. Fluffy the dog, like everybody. Yes, absolutely. Absolutely.
Perfect.
Yes.
Well, that's good to know.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So that leads me to my next question. As I was listening to your weekly tune-ins, I put, when you ask yourself the questions and how you feel less bogged down afterwards, and you were like stating about mentally more clear. So that really resonated with me, because like, if you do ask yourself the questions, then you feel less like weighted. How, like, if you could define that so someone listening is like, oh, wow, this is what that means.
Yeah. So I think with a lot of people, energy is within everything that's around us. And so our language, our words, our thoughts hold all sorts of energy. And I think by going through and asking yourselves questions. So, one of my favorite ones that I actually ask myself this every single week: what energy am I choosing to embody this week? And that was one we actually talked about last week as well. But I love that, because I did I'm trying to think when we had started this. I think it's been a few years now, but beginning of every January, I choose 52 words that I want to try to embody throughout the year, right? Wow. And so I pick a word a week then. And so I just have this running list, and I kind of skim through it at the start of Sunday, my week, and I'll say, okay, what's jumping out? So this week actually is teach.
I was going to ask you what your word was.
Teach this week. Yeah, which I love teaching. So that for me on my radar is like, okay, like what am I moving into this week that is going to allow me to show up more as a teacher? Or what do I need to teach myself this week? So I ask that. So when I talk about what kind of energy do I want to choose to embody, I always go back to my word of the week and see where I can infuse that in. But I'm also thinking, all right, what's happening in my life right now? Like, I feel like a lot of what I've been hearing from my clients the last 2 weeks is there's a lot of impatience happening. A lot of people are being really hard on themselves right now. They're being hard on each other. And so it's really kind of this slowing down energy. So can I embody like patience, for example? And this was a conversation I had with someone last week, actually, of like, how can I embody patience in my life? And it's not being like, okay, I won't let this work me up, let me get worked up, or that won't upset me. But it's just being like, is there another place that I can operate from? So sometimes these questions are just getting you to think outside of the box, just getting creative with your energy, because a lot of people, I think energetically right now, a lot of people are just getting in their own way, and it's challenging.
Absolutely. Yes. I've heard that. Get out of your own way.
And as a culture, we like to control things, and because in control, there's safety within all of that. But sometimes we have to let things just come together. And sometimes we have to let things just bump into each other a little bit. And sometimes great things come from bumping into each other.
They do.
But it's giving yourself that space and figuring out, can I embody something that allows me to give life to a little of that bumpy energy too?
Oh, I love that. Yeah. And even just your way of saying, mentally more clear and less bogged down. Those
Yes.
words were like, oh. So it made me want to have you speak, like, let's do mental check-ins, right? Or let's check in with ourselves emotionally and how we feel, right?
It's interesting because, like mediumship, shamanic healing, manifesting, the three main things that I do in my work are completely standalone stuff, but they all complement each other beautifully. Yes. And they were never things that I thought would ever overlap into my greater work, and now very much do. And I think that the one piece with like the mental clarity, you need so much of that within utilizing the law of attraction and manifesting to be successful. And it's also something in shamanic healing and energy work that we push to have that mental clarity, that space to kind of be present with yourself and check in with that energy. And of course, if you're going to talk to dead people, you've got to have lots of clarity because you need to be able to hear them.
Right.
Yeah. So it all kind of complements. But with the mental clarity piece and trying to figure out how to feel less bogged down, people struggle with manifesting. I try not to always push it on people, but I think that if you can adapt manifesting into daily parts of your life, it can be a greater game changer from head to toe.
Yes.
And I think that a big piece of that is that mental clarity. So in manifesting, we ask a lot of questions to try to get to the root of what somebody wants.
Yes.
And in reality, I think what started prompting me probably about 7 or 8 years ago to really move more into this question component was, if you think about manifesting, it kind of comes down to like 3 pieces. All day long, people are manifesting. We're putting our desires, our prayers, our asks for miracles out to the universe. Yeah. All of those miracles, prayers, wants, and needs, they are all heard and they are answered instantly, which people don't realize that. So all those miracles that we're asking for, everything answered instantly. But what takes so long for those to come in is us energetically needing to have the real estate in our lives to allow those miracles and those things to come in. And so the more mental clarity that we can have, we can free up other pieces, we'll say like negative pieces, whether they're old ways of thinking, judgments, lack scarcity, like those pieces, we can free those up with mental clarity so that we can allow the miracles to come in, like big and small miracles. So I try to use these questions as ways to, I think, shift energy. And most people hold on to that energy from that mental, emotional standpoint. So if we can dig a little deeper and just, even if it's a little aha, you're moving this beautiful kind of forward motion energy to open up all the space for living your best life and really having anything you want.
And being able to receive, right?
Totally.
Yes.
Absolutely.
And I think the clarity is so important. I always say, can't get what you want until you know what you want.
Correct.
Right. Yeah. So really tap into that.
Well, and most people, I think they know what they want because someone has told them you should do this or you should want this, or you're only allowed to have this, or this will never happen. So do this instead. And so we think that we're clear, but in reality being like, I don't even like that. Like, I don't even want to do that. No. So that's where I think these questions and the energy updates weekly have really been so much fun and enlightening and just sparking, I think, joy and hope for people too.
Yes.
So, and hopefully letting go of the bogged down stuff.
Absolutely. Yeah. So just in case they're only midway listening on their drive to work, where can they find you on Instagram so they can get these weekly check-ins?
Absolutely. So Reflective Harmony KMB is my handle on Instagram and Facebook. I'm now on TikTok. I went into that world. Good, yeah. Well, at the nudge of my teenagers, and they're like, "Mom, you need to do this." And I was like, "Okay, I'm not give it a whirl. I'm not going to be dancing or doing anything like that. But hopefully giving snippets of advice." And you can also find me on my website, kellyanballard.com.
Okay, perfect. All right. So now that they know where to find you, I'm going to go into my next question. So sensitivity to, is this too much or is this no longer resonating? Is that a sign that we need to like shift our focus when you feel that like total sensitivity?
Resistance. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. And so in the law of attraction world, we call it resistance. And then we need to pivot. Okay. So, I think when we start kind of feeling that something's too much, or we keep getting resistance when we turn a corner, like, I've tried to do this again and I'm needing this again, or this personality keeps showing up into my life, or I tried to make this happen again and I got this consequence again, whatever it is, that's always a sign that we need to kind of redirect ourselves. And most people, their knee-jerk reaction is to go into a mode to quit. And it's like, this is hard. This is resistant. I don't feel good. I start to feel fussy and spicy. And we just want to push against all of it. But if you can give yourself a little bit of patience and just, I always say, like, let's just observe the resistance. Like, let's just observe the stop signs that you're hitting. Like, is there a common denominator in all of it? Sometimes you'll see a lot of people will have all these pockets of resistance, and it might all come down to like lack and scarcity. And it shows up in all different ways, but the common theme of it is that. So it's figuring out how can we give space to release like the lack and scarcity mindset.
Yes.
Sometimes we don't know what it's tied to, but I think that's where you can kind of lean on spirit and kind of make some intentions. Like, I wish to release any energy that is connected with lack and scarcity that is preventing me from living my best life. And I have sticky notes like all over my office, my car, like with different affirmations. And even if you're grumbling your way through it, those words have power to them. And you don't have to believe all of it yet, like, because we're all a work in progress, but there's power and energy behind those. So even just sticking that on a sticky note or grumbling your way through it, you're still putting mojo and energy out there that's being heard and shifted and changed.
Love that. Okay. So that's how they get into that. And then we kind of already talked about how to tap into spirit to get guidance. So my next question was, so one of your things was during your interview on Instagram, you said how you have so many different organizers, one for financial, one for whatever. And I thought to myself, oh my gosh, this woman is like me, because I have 5 daily journals plus checklists, plus to-do notes, like, and I love the satisfaction of crossing off my to-do list or my work, and then I have like a manifesting journal, a 369, which is the Tesla. I have a gratitude journal. So when I heard you talk about that, I was like, wow, she's my people. So I just wanted you to speak on what is the benefit of having all of these different organizers.
Well, so it's like embarrassing and exciting all at the same time. I live the bulk of my day, if not all of my day at this point, from a place of manifesting and using the law of attraction. And I have a background in writing. And for me, launching stuff out, whether it's a to-do list, my intentions, affirmations, all those different pieces, is really a way that I feel like I plug in personally with spirit and how I'm heard. So I have found that as I become a successful manifester, dedicating space to each of kind of those areas, and so they happen to be different planners, organizers, and journals, has allowed me to expedite my manifesting. So having one where I'm just keeping all of my stuff from work finances, personal finances, just being able to love that up from a very abundant and prosperous kind of way. I love having it all in there and what it represents to me. And when I look at it, it's like a concentration of like prosperity, for lack of a better word. This little guy here is actually the one that I keep in my purse all the time. And it's got just running lists of manifestations, my 52 words, my affirmations that I use. And when I run out of space, I copy some of those things into a new one, because again, it's the energy that it infuses. But for me, a lot of stuff that I'm working with spirit directly with. So sometimes it's keeping a log from them of like, hey, make sure that we're doing these pieces. So I feel like I'm always getting, I don't know if downloads is
I was going to say downloads was the word.
That's probably an excellent word. So it kind of acts as something for me that I think helps me to stay on track and organized with my manifesting. And just I always laugh because I'm like, there's like kind of Mom Kelly, and then there's like spiritual Kelly. And now I feel like I think all of me is just this kind of spiritual being at this point. But it helps me to run my best and keep serving spirit and doing the best things that I need to do to help other people.
I was going to say, this allows you to help others.
But I will tell you, in all of this chaos with having so many planners, I'm getting ready to launch a huge virtual course and a community that's been probably 15 years in the making. It's hopefully coming out this fall. And I just finished actually this giant planner.
Okay. So for anyone who's listening on podcasts on Spotify or Apple iTunes, I know you guys can't see it, but it is this huge, beautiful hardcover, shiny, glossy, gorgeous book. It is so thick. I don't know. What is it? Like 5 million pages?
It's huge. A lot. Yeah. I lost track. It's a lot, though. I think it's close to 700 pages. I'm embarrassed to say that. But it's my Soulful Synergy yearly planner and manifesting tool. And inside, I really could never find one planner that had everything that I needed in it. And this has everything in that. So it breaks down yearly goals, and none of it's printed. So you can kind of use it indefinitely, like write in your own dates. You know what I mean? So if you decide to pick this up in November, you can use it till the following, October 31st. And that's your year when you're using this. But it's got, 52 words, your affirmations, space to create yearly goals, like what you want to put together and what actually happened, seasonal reflections, monthly manifestation tools and tracking, weekly outlines, including space for weekly energy updates. And, what are you doing for yourself? Like checking in with your sacred soul practice. Like, what do you need? So this is actually a companion that's going to everybody that's in the course, whether they're local people or, in Scotland or in California, they'll get one of these shipped to them as being part of our community in the course. So this is my baby. And it literally just came on Friday. So I've been like loving it.
Your book baby, that's what I call them, book babies.
Yeah.
So can we show the audience that is watching on YouTube? Look at how gorgeous this is. Now, my question is, can I get one if I'm not part of your workshop, or is it only accessible to that?
Right now, I think I'm just going to be offering it for the virtual community. And that's kind of what I'm being pushed with Spirit. I have a feeling that once we get through like the first incarnation of this community, I'll probably launch it as something that anybody can purchase. I think I want to just it's so sacred and what it represents. I just want to be able to gift that to the participants of this community first.
I'm actually drooling. For anyone who's just listening, I'm like drooling at how gorgeous this is.
Thank you. I'm so proud of it. And I think it really breaks down manifesting for people in a really easy way, that it's not intimidating. And, manifesting is so much more than just having a good thought and putting it out there. It's really about getting creative. And this gives you so many beautiful prompts and ways to get creative. And if you're somebody that's like, oh, I can't really do weekly tracking, I'm more of a daily person, it gives you that option to do that. I mean, it's set up for success. And however you want to, you can go all in or do baby steps in there. And that's the brilliancy of it.
All right. So we can probably link that in the show notes, right? Absolutely. So they can see it and all that kind of stuff. Yes. Oh my gosh. All right. So my next question was, is there such a thing? And I asked this of all of my guests because I wrote a book called Psychic Serendipity. So, the whole romance. So I always ask, is there such a thing as destiny delivering you your soulmate? And if that's true, what can our single listeners do?
Absolutely.
Manifest their soulmate?
Yeah, no, I love that question. And it's probably one of the most frequent conversations that I have with my clients. So I believe we have lots of soulmates in this lifetime. And I think that our soulmates can show up from our children to dear friends to a partner to people that we meet in business. I think we have lots of soulmates that cross our paths. However, I do believe that we each, whether we sign up to have one person in this lifetime that is our ride or die, our person romantically, or maybe, life takes us curveballs and we have a couple in this lifetime, which I think is very common for people. I'm a big believer that we manifest those people in, actually. Yeah. And so I think that those people that we manifest in are within our soul circles already. I think that they are part of the contract that we created with Spirit well before we came into this life and figured out what we wanted to accomplish. So I think those people are written in our blueprint. And I think that when people can start to get clear on what they deserve and what they want and what they're looking for, we can expedite that process of how quickly we can bring that person in. So I have a little bit of a different spin on it, but I think when that spin really resonates with somebody, I have watched so many people, some people even overnight, just make that shift in their thinking and attract that person in. And it's pretty awesome to watch. I think it's a mindset shift in a lot of ways, because it's about where we are at and what we feel that we are worth bringing in and attracting that person into. So like attracts like, if you're in a little bit of a dodgy, spicy space, maybe that's what you're attracting. If you're discovering your worth and value, the pieces that you love and adore and cherish about yourself, you're going to attract in a partner that is going to love and adore and cherish you and also allow you to do that to them. So it's kind of a beautiful double-edged dynamic.
All right. So I feel like that's a great tip for our single listeners.
Absolutely.
Right? Like
Absolutely.
If they're attracting what they don't want, tune in, maybe see what do you think of yourself? What are your self-beliefs? Maybe?
Absolutely. Okay. Because, and if you can look at your friendship circles, a lot of times, like what we're attracting in is kind of what we have around us right now. But one of the common things that I talk a lot about with people is, if you had, source energy right in front of you and said, Lorraine, what in this moment, if you could give me 3 things, do you want your perfect partner? And that's a tough thing for people to answer. And it doesn't have to be just 3, it can be a dozen. But, sometimes we'll break those down into like law of attraction lists. So we'll have like our deal breakers where it's like, I'm not going to bend and this is what I'm calling it. And then the would be nice if, and I always joke and like maybe like nice teeth and 2 eyebrows or, but like, but I think in a lot of ways that if you can get clear about like, how do you love yourself? How does that love feel? feel. And then visualizing not necessarily a specific person, but if you were to see yourself with a silhouette of an energy, how does that energy love you? And how do you want that energy to love you? And are you putting out that same kind of love and energy that you want to receive back? And that's the big dynamic. It's something that gets people thinking. And most of the time when I work with people to get clear on what that love interest looks like, it takes us a couple sessions typically, because sometimes you're just busting down walls in the first one. Sometimes we need a little energy work to move out old belief systems and maybe old energy we're holding in our heart space that we shouldn't. Then it's like all of a sudden this spark happens, and it's like a fire has been lit under someone, and you can just see like they're calling in their person. They're getting clear. They're identifying their self-worth and value, and it's where it gets all magical.
And does it usually happen soon after that when they get clear?
Yes. And I will tell you, I think that's been one of the most amazing things that I get to watch and witness is watching people find their person. And then, they might, whether they reach out in an email or they might come back for another appointment shortly thereafter and are sharing with me, like, Kelly, I met my person.
And you're like, I know.
It never gets old. Like, I think everybody has that potential, but it's also being willing to do the work on yourself, because that person deserves the best of you, just like you deserve the best of you. And I think that's where a lot of this stuff comes from.
Oh, I feel like that's so helpful for our single listeners. So thank you.
Oh, you're so welcome. My pleasure.
All right. So my next question is manifesting what you want, tips and tricks to set yourself up for success, which it seems to me that this huge book that you did would help with that. Yes. But if not, what is something that they can do?
So my biggest thing with manifesting is really thinking about, what are you looking to call in? And so it's kind of asking yourself, I always start kind of basic questions. So, you look at life, most people want to talk about their career, their finances, their relationships with people, and like their health and wellness. And so, most people, when they're coming in for manifesting for the first time, I'll say, some people have a direct idea, and some people are like, I just want to change my whole life, Kelly. And I'm like, okay, well, let's break these down into a couple pockets. And so it's really looking at these categories and being like, are you okay in this area for now? Like, it's figuring out which area has lack first. So it's asking yourself, like, how do I feel about the relationships around me? And some people can say, I feel pretty content. Like, I feel like I've weeded out like the dandelions. I feel like I've got more perennials like growing around me. So I feel good with my relationships, Kelly. Fabulous. How are you feeling about your finances? Finances stress me out. So then we know that's an area that we might want to start thinking about. All right, if finances are stressing you out, what would life look like if all of your bills were paid, that your needs were met? So it's me asking a lot of questions. And within that, there's a lot of clear phrases that I'm looking for from people. So some people want, like, investments will make somebody feel like that. For me, Kelly, would make me feel that I'm financially secure. All right. So then we start figuring out how can we manifest you connecting with the right person to support you with investments, and getting into the nitty gritty. So a lot of manifesting, I think, is asking questions and kind of continuing to ask until you get to the topic that when you think about it, I always say the feeling is like I'm covered in head to toe from goosebumps. I feel like my heart wants to just overflow with joy and happiness. And I know then that I'm on a track of like, this is what like abundance looks like for me. This is what joy looks like. Love is the highest vibrational frequency that exists out there. And we should be always manifesting from love. So anything that gives you, the chills, makes you get passionate, teary, emotional when you're talking about it, that you're heading into a right space. So we really want the most amazing feel-good feeling to come off of us when we're manifesting. And that's what I always tell people to look for, and just keep asking questions until you can get to that space.
And for me, it's kind of like I get like that bubbly energy, like carbonated soda, like just see myself bubbling like Prosecco or champagne.
I love it.
That's the energy, right?
Without a
so
doubt.
If they feel that, maybe, hey, this is your thing.
Yeah. And so then it's digging deeper to ask yourself, all right, if this is the feeling I want to have, what would it look like around me if all of that was manifesting and all of that coming together? So it's just kind of continuing to get clear and get clear and get clear.
Okay. And then the opposite of that would be like, what makes my breathing restricted? Or what makes me like kind of cave in, right?
That's what makes, well, I'll always say, when I watch people start to like close up their body language,
Yes.
you know what I
I
mean?
noticed
Or,
that.
and I'm somebody that I have a tendency to sit with my arms crossed, like out of comfort. So I'm like, but it's a different type of closed off energy that comes in. Or when somebody starts to get panicky and they start to spiral in their thinking, right?
Yes.
And I can tell, like, okay, this is your opposite.
Yeah,
So
let's not go there.
now, on the flip side of that, there are some people that can't get themselves to that bubbly champagne place. I love that. That's a beautiful analogy. I love myself some Prosecco. So there are people that can't get themselves to that place. And so I will say, listen, let's go to the fear place. Like, let's go to what has you like all spinning, because we can pivot from the opposite of anything negative. We can pivot to the positive and then start to dig into that. So every now and then we've got somebody that they only know how to operate from that place of fear. And that's okay, because there's always an opposite of any of that. So sometimes we just do it backwards, but we can still always get to the joy.
Okay.
Yeah,
perfect.
absolutely.
That's so helpful.
Yeah.
All right. Well, my last question for you is talk about putting energy out into your auric field. So I'm sure there's listeners who are like, what is an auric field? And how do I talk about energy? Like, what is the energy, lights on, lights off? So if you could just explain that to our listeners.
Absolutely. So your auric field, or your aura, literally, if you were to stretch your fingertips out, it goes from fingertip to fingertip, up way above your head and below your feet. So it's pretty massive if you think about it. So I always say to people, if you are in Target and you've got your shopping cart and you're getting in line and you've got a shopping cart between you and the person in front of you or behind you, and it still feels like they're too close, it's because their auric field is overlapping within yours. So it's us feeling other people's energy sometimes. So when we think about what we're putting in our auric field houses all of our emotions, our memories, our wants, our wishes, our desires. It houses our fear. It's our container of like what makes us human in this human existence. So we can release parts of that. When I was saying to you earlier about, desires go out into our auric field, they're answered, they're placed immediately back in our auric field, but they can't settle in because we don't have the real estate freed up to let them come in. So, if you want to manifest a windfall of money, like that's fabulous, or the partner of your dreams, that's going to take some good sized real estate, because that's an amazing manifestation that you are ready for. But if you only have a sliver here or a sliver over there free, that's just going to kind of sit in the outermost part of your auric field until you've got the space freed up. So sometimes we have to free up space in our auric field by releasing old thought patterns, judgments, releasing old wounds and trauma, working on ourselves, choosing ourselves. And then we free up that space, and it allows those pieces that have just been kind of hanging out ready for us to come on in.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Perfect. And so if they're out and they feel like, sometimes I'll be out and I feel like black energy, like negative, is that auric field too? So
you're feeling the gunk in someone else's auric field that is not in alignment with what's in yours. And so that would be like resistance. So very, very normal. And I think that a lot of like my students that venture into mediumship classes with me or healing classes, that's probably the hardest adjustment for a lot of them to make, that when you start opening yourself up, you become just more sensitive to the energy around us. I mean, everything has energy attached to us, from the pencil that we hold at the doctor's office to fill out a form to the language that another person is speaking. There's energy dripping off of all of that. And so when you've got somebody that all of a sudden we start to maybe feel like the heebie-jeebies, or we feel uncomfortable, or we feel like something feels really off and I don't like this feeling, it's one, listen to your instincts that something does feel off. But I also like what's around you. Are you picking up old energy that someone might have left in the room or the space that you're in? Does someone just not have desirable energy that's not in alignment with yours? I always laugh because I use like smokeless sage in my office in between my clients. Yeah.
Is that what Palo Santo and sage is all for? Okay.
Absolutely. Just cleaning out like the energy. So, most people come into my office and they're dumping a lot of heavy stuff because that's why they're coming to see me. So I want to make sure that my space is completely clear and back to brilliant neutral for the next person coming in. So I use a lot of that to help clean out the energy, so someone's not feeling that build up from another person. Well, yeah, because it's a lot. Everything's a lot right now.
So maybe if someone's listening and Thanksgiving's coming up, right, and they have people over to their families and there's some bad energy, just go ahead and clean that gunk up after they leave with some sage.
I joke and say anytime that you have guests, like when they leave, like go smudge that room, like go clear all of that. We clean our reception area at the end of every business day, and like so that the next people that sit in the seats that are coming in, it's their own juju. Like I'm a diva with that kind of of stuff.
Oh, I love that.
So
Okay,
life's
good.
too short to sit in crappy energy.
Yeah. Oh, such a great statement.
Well, it's true.
So good. Oh, well, it's been such a pleasure. I am so excited for everyone to listen, and they can work with you one-on-one or in
Absolutely.
group settings.
Yeah, absolutely.
How do they?
You go onto my website, kellyandballard.com. There's availability book sessions for private readings, energy work. I do private LOA coaching. I teach or manifesting coaching. I teach a ton of different classes. So all of that's on my website that you can find how to connect in with me.
Perfect. And for anyone who's like, what is LOA? It's love attraction.
You got it. Yes. Yeah.
And energy work, that means
energy work. My energy work is a combination of 5 different modalities. It's got a heavy Reiki base. I am a Reiki master and a teacher as well. It's my first healing art that I fell in love with. So it's my foundation for the work that I do healing wise. I do shamanic healing. I do a little bit of some sound healing. I work with some crystals in my practice. And obviously I wiggle in mediumship, letting your people direct traffic and tell me what to do. So I lump all of that to call that energy work. So some people come in because they just feel out of sorts and they feel off. I have a lot of people that I do work with right now. Lyme disease is a huge thing that I'm working with a lot of people that are working with like neurological Lyme to like release the energy with that. And I have some people that are just, it's part of their energetic hygiene and keeping themselves feeling good and healthy. It's getting energy work done. So yeah, it's a lot of fun.
I just love that. Yeah. I got certified in Reiki 10 years ago. So like
it's a game changer.
It is such a game changer.
Yes, absolutely.
And
absolutely.
Are you in Colony?
I'm in Albany, yes, off New Kerner Road. Okay. But I also work with people virtually all over the U.S. and internationally. So I'm happy that I get to see a lot of people in person, but I also work with people by way of Zoom and phone as well.
So perfect.
Absolutely.
Well, thank you so much for being
for having
here.
me. This is fabulous. I've so enjoyed my time with you.
Oh, it's been amazing. And if you guys want to learn more about her, you can just visit her website. I will put it all in the show notes, and make sure you tune in for her weekly Instagram tips, right?
Yeah,
and updates. I love it.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. You're so welcome.
Bye.
Bye.
Thanks so much for listening. To stay connected to me, please visit my website at chooseahappyday.com. And at the bottom, just sign up for my email list to be notified of any upcoming events, book launches, as well as new podcasts. Until next time, have a happy day.